Hello everyone, how are you? Good? My name is Dennis and I will be your math teacher. We are going to study Math Grade 3. Do you like math? Yes. Do you love math? Yes. So do I. And we're going to have a lot of fun playing with numbers and many other things. Okay, to begin today, we will start with Lesson 1. Lesson 1, we are going to look at place value, how to use models and different ways to write numbers. For example, I will give you a number. This number. What number is it? It's number 7. How can you write this using a model? Well, if I told you that a small square like that was equal to 1, you would have to put 7 small squares. Like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like that. Now, if I gave you a bigger number like 16, you could do 16 little squares. Or if I told you that a line was equal to 10, you could just put one line and 6 small squares, like that. And it's equal to 16, instead of putting 16 little squares. Now, if I gave you a very big number like 120, how would you do it? Well, you could put 120 little squares, but it takes too long. You could put 12 lines, and it would give you 120. But what if I told you that a big square was equal to 100? Then what you could do is just put a big square, which would equal 100, and 2 lines, like that. It gives you 120. Now, if I gave you a very big number like 1,244, you could do 1,244 little squares, but that takes too long. You could do 120 lines like that and 4 little squares, but that takes too long too. You could do 12 big squares, but that takes too long too. So what if I told you that a cube is equal to 1,000? Then you could do a cube, 2 big squares, and this is 1,000 and 100 and 100 and then 44. So 4 lines, which is 40, and 4 little squares. 1,244. That's very easy. It's better to use the biggest kind of model you can because it makes it much easier. Okay, now, that's how we use the model. Now, there are other ways to write numbers and other ways to look at numbers. Okay, so I'm going to take one big number, 1,831. Now, we're going to look at different ways that we can show this number. One is with the model. The model. So, we would have a big cube, like that, which is 1,800s. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 3 tens, and 1 small square. That is the model for 1,831. Now, we can also write it through an expanded form. Expanded form. Now, what is an expanded form? Is when we write this plus this plus this plus this. So, the thousands plus the hundreds plus the tens plus the ones, okay? So, how many thousands do we have? 1. So, it would be 1,000 plus how many hundreds do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Plus, how many tens do we have? 3. So it's 30. Plus, how many ones? 1 equals to 1,831. This is the expanded form. Now we can also write it in a standard form. Standard form. I'll put it up here. Now, what is the standard form is when we just write the number, 1,831. This is the standard form. So there are 3 different ways here that you can write a number. And there actually is one more. It's a digit chart. Now, for that, I'm going to have to erase it all. And we're going to do a digit chart for 1,831. Now, what you do is you make a big box like this. Up at the top, you write the ones. Okay, and here is the thousands, the hundreds, the tens, and the ones. And it can get bigger by going into the 10,000s, and the 100,000s. Now, so what do we have here? Sorry, these are not lines. Goes like this. These are ones, and these are thousands. Okay, so which number do we have? 1,831. So how many ones? 1. How many tens? 3. How many hundreds? 8. How many thousands? 1. How many 10,000s? 0. How many 100,000s? 0. But if I gave you a bigger number, like 30,883, how would you write that in the digit? In the digit form? Well, how many ones? 3. How many tens? 8. How many hundreds? 8. How many thousands? 0. How many 10,000s? 3. How many 100,000s? 0. Now, the standard form is like this, and this is the digit form. And when you're looking at the digit form, what's important to know is the position of the number. Now, you know that here on the far right is the ones. And this number represents the tens. And this number represents the hundreds. And this number represents the thousands. And this one, the 10,000s. And this one here, which we don't have, represents the 100,000s. 100,000s. So, let's do another number, and I'm going to ask you to do the digit table. So here will be your number. Now, what do we have here? Well, if it was just this, we would have number 9. If it was this, we would have 89. If it was this, we would have 389. If it was this, we would have 4,389. If we would have this, we would have 24,389. Now, what do we have? 100,000 number. So we have 224,389. So, if we put that into our digit table, we would start over here, and how many ones? 9. How many tens? 8. How many hundreds? 3. How many thousands? 4. How many 10,000s? 2. How many 100,000s? 2. 224,389. Let's try one more. I'm going to take this away. This is your small test to see if you understand. Okay, which number do we have up here? Well, it's up to you to find out which number represents what. This represents the ones, this the tens, this the hundreds. These are all ones. This the thousands, this the 10,000s, and this the 100,000s. So put it into your digit table. So how many ones? 4. How many tens? 9. How many hundreds? 6. How many thousands? 9. How many 10,000s? 7. How many 100,000s? 8. What number do we have? To say the number, just take your thousands. How many do you have? 879. 879,000. And then take your ones. How many do you have? 694. What's your number? It's 879,694. First say your thousands and then your ones. If I had this number, these digits, what number would that be? First, say your thousands. 23,000. Then say your hundreds. 703. It's 23,703. Good. You're on the way to become a great mathematician. Now, we're going to learn something different now. And I'm sure you already know what it is, but we're going to use bigger numbers. So, if I asked you to compare these two numbers, what would you say? Oh, yeah. 3 and 2. I gave you a little hint by putting this little symbol. Do you remember what that is? I know we learned it before, so you should remember. What is it? What is it? Well, this means that it's bigger, greater. If it's open to this number, it means this number is greater than this number. So when you talk to compare 3 and 2, first thing you could say is that 3 is greater than 2. Or you can say that 2 is less than 3. Now, if I put two other numbers like 2 and 6, what can you say? You can say two things. 6 is greater than 2, or that 2 is less than 6. If I put 3 numbers on the board, 2, 8, and 1, what can you compare about all three of them? Well, you can make first the comparison between 2 and 8. And you can say that 8 is greater than 2, or that 2 is less than 8. Or you can compare 2 and 1 and say that 2 is greater than 1, or 1 is less than 2. Or you can take the number 8 and 1 and say that 8 is greater than 1, or 1 is less than 8. Or you can even say that 8 is the greatest number because it's the biggest one. Or you can say that 1 is the least. 1 is the least. It's the smallest number out of these three. So I'm going to put 3 more numbers, and I want you to tell me 3 different things about them. And then tell me which one is the greatest and which one is the least. Okay, and I've put two-digit numbers there so that you can go a little bit more into a different level. Now, what can you tell me about 9, 21, and 44? Well, first you can look at 9 and 21. You can say that 21 is greater than 9, or that 9 is less than 21. Or you can take 9 and 44, and you can say that 44 is greater than 9, or that 9 is less than 44. Or you can take 21 and 44 and say that 21 is less than 44, or that 44 is greater than 21. Or you can say that 44 is the greatest number, or that 9 is the least. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put bigger numbers, because here we have to look a little bit more closely. Now, which number do we have up here? 2,398. Remember, ones, tens, hundreds, thousands. And which number do we have here? 2,393. Now, when we have 1 and 6, it's very easy to know that 6 is greater, because we know that 1 is smaller than 6. Now, when we look at thousands, this one, if we look at this, at the thousands, they look the same. Then we move to the hundreds, they also look the same. Then we move to the tens, and they also look the same. But when we get to the ones, we realize that this number is greater because this is an 8 and this is a 3. So what you want to do when you look at numbers with many digits, you start at the greatest column, which here is the thousands, and you look. And you look until you find a number which is different. So here it's the same. The hundreds are the same. The tens are the same. But here in the ones, this number is greater than this one. Now, I'll put another one just to test you. Oh. Okay, now I have 3 numbers on the board. If you want, you can put some commas there to split up the thousands and the ones. Now, let's read the numbers out to see if you really learned what we learned at the beginning. Well, this one here would be, look at the thousands, 397,462. This one would be 689,399. This one would be 397,461. Now, I want you to compare these 3 numbers for me. Well, looking at these two, we can see that this one is greater than this one. Because what do you do? Well, you look at the first column, and this is a 6, and there is a 3. So already we know that 689,399 is greater than 397,462. So we know that, and if we look here, we can see that it's the same, a 6 and a 3. So we know that this number is the greatest. Now, let's see which one is the least. Well, here we have 397,462, and here 397,461. Well, we go column by column. 3 and 3, it looks the same. 9 and 9, it looks the same. 7 and 7, it looks the same. 4 and 4, it looks the same. 6 and 6, it looks the same. 1 and 2, it's not the same. This one is greater than this one. This one is less than this one. But what would have happened if we would have had that? We would have had 3 and 3, 9 and 9, 7 and 7, 4 and 4, 6 and 6, and 2 and 2. There is no difference. When this happens, we say equal to. So we would say this number is equal to this number. Just like 482 and 482. We can say that this number and this number are equal. 482 is equal to 482. Good! I'm sure you remember this from last year. It's just a review. Get ready for some things that are much harder. Okay, now we will look at how to round numbers. I'm sure you know how to do it, but let's review it together. Now, if I give you a number like 8, and I want you to round it to the nearest 10, and this would be the tens, what would you put? Well, if we look at 8, the nearest 10 would be 10, because when we look at rounding numbers, we look at a number like 8, or let's say 18. Now, if we have a number like 18, and we want to round it to the nearest 10, what we want to do is we want to look at the column of the tens, look at the number on the right, and if this number, if it's greater than 5, this number will go up. And if it's less than 5, this number will stay the same. Watch. Now, we have the number 18. Now, if the number on the right is greater or even to 5, this will go to a 2. And if it's less than 5, it will become 10. Because there are two 10s, we have 20 or we have 10. Now, if this one is greater or even to 5, we'll go to 20. And if it's less than 5, we'll go down to 10. Now, 8 is greater than 5. So the nearest 10 is 20. But if we would have a number like 21, when we take the tens here and we look at the number on the right, we see that it is less than 5. So if it's less than 5, instead of going to the 20, we're going to go down to the 10. Or here it would be, instead of going 30 or 20, instead of going up to 30, we're going to go down to 20. To show you two numbers which are within the same tens, let's take the number 39 and 33. Now, if we want to round it to the nearest 10, now this is your 10 column here. So we look at the numbers on the right. Now, 9 is greater than 5, so this will become 40. And 3 is less than 5, so this will become 30. It's the same when we look at hundreds. If I have a number like 130 and a number like 180, and I want you to round it to the nearest 100, you're going to look at the hundreds and look at the numbers on the right. Now again, if it's greater or even to 5, if the number is greater or even to 5, we're going to go up. And if it's less than 5, we're going to go down. So, we look here at the hundreds, we look on the right, and we have a 3. Now, a 3 is less than 5. So this number will stay the same. Instead of going up to 200, the nearest 100 is 100. But if we look at this one, the number on the right is an 8, which is greater than 5. So this will change to a 2, which will give us 200. Let's take another 100 to see if you understand. Well, if I give you the number 362, and I want you to round it to the nearest 100, well, you would look at the hundreds column and look at the number on the right, and if the number is even or greater to 5, this will go up to a 4, and if it's less than 5, it will stay 3. Well, 6 is greater than 5, so this will become 400. 400 is the nearest 100 to 362. But if I would have asked you with the same number to round it to the nearest 10, instead of looking at the hundreds column, you will look at the tens column. Now, you look at the tens column and you look at the number on the right, and you see that it's a 2. It is less than 5. So this will stay a 6, and it will be 360. This is the nearest 10. And we saw earlier that 400 is the nearest 100. And it's the same for thousands. If I give you the number 1,833, and I ask you, what is the nearest 1,000 to 1,833? Well, you look at the 1,000 column, and you take the number on the right, and you look, and it's greater than 5, so that means that this will go up to a 2, and it means that it will become 2,000. But if I give you the number 2,138, and I ask you to round it to the nearest 1,000, you take this number here, the column of the thousands, you look at the number on the right, and it's a 1, it's less than 5. This will not go up, it will stay the same. 2,000. So you see here we have a number in the 1,000s and one in the 2,000s, and the nearest 1,000 is the same, because the hundreds are, this one is a greater 100 than 5, and this one is a lower 100 than 5. So, before we move on, I'm going to give you a number, and I want you to round it to the nearest 10, the nearest 100, and the nearest 1,000. So, first, I want you to round it to the nearest 10. Well, you look at the column of the tens, which is here. Then you look at the number on the right. It's a 2. 2 is less than 5, so 9 will stay the same. So our number will be 4,390. And if I were to ask you to round it to the nearest 100, you look at the hundreds column, and you look at the number on the right, and it's a 9. So it's greater than 5, so this will go up to a 4. And if I ask you to round it to the nearest 1,000, you will look at the thousands column and at the number on the right, which is a 3, which is less than 5, so the 4 will stay the same. Becomes 4,000. And it's the same when we look at the 10,000s. If I give you the number 32,960, and I ask you to round it to the nearest 10,000, you go to the 10,000 column, you look at the number on the right, which is a 2, which is less than 5, so this stays the same. And these all become zeros. Don't forget that all the numbers after the 10,000 column will all become zeros. I'm going to test you by giving you a number in the 100,000s, and I'm going to ask you to do the 10, the 100, the 1,000, the 10,000, and the 100,000. So your number will be 239,672. So first, I want you to round it to the nearest 10, and then the nearest 100, and then the nearest 1,000, and then the nearest 10,000, and then the nearest 100,000. Let's start with the tens. Where is the 10 column? Here. Look at the number on the right. It's a 2. 2 is less than 5. It will stay a 7. So it's 239,670. Now let's round to the nearest 100. Let's look at the hundreds. Look at the number on the right. It's a 7. It's greater than 5. So it's 239,000. This will go up to a 7, and these will become zeros. And let's round to the nearest 1,000. Well, here is the thousands column. Look at the number on the right. It's a 6. So it's a 6, so this will go up. And since here it's a 9, and we go up to a 10, but we can't write a 10 here, so what we're going to do is we're going to bring this one up to a 4. So it'll become 240,000. And here, if we want to round to the nearest 10,000, we'll look at the 10,000 column, look at the number on the right, which is a 9, which is greater than 5, so the 3 will go up to a 4, to 240,000 again. And if we want to round it to the nearest 100,000, we look at the 100,000 column, look at the number on the right, it's a 3, which is less than 5, so the 2 will stay at 2. And everything else will just become zeros. It's easy when you look at it. You just find the column of which number you want to round. If it's the tens, you find the tens. You look at the number on the right. If it's greater or even to 5, this number will go up. The 10 will go up. If it's less than 5, it will stay the same. And it's the same for every digit that you look at. I hope you understand. Until next time, goodbye. We'll be looking at money next time, so we'll have fun. See you later.